You are driving your car, or perhaps you are washing the dishes in the quiet of the evening, and a conversation is playing out in your mind. In this mental scene, the person you care about is finally saying exactly what you need to hear. They are apologizing with the depth you have always craved. They are explaining their silence in a way that makes perfect sense. They are showing up, emotionally available and present. In the safety of your imagination, the relationship is finally matching the intensity of your love. But then, the water stops running, or the car engine turns off, and you step back into the silence of the real world. The contrast is physically painful. You are left holding a script that the other person has never read, and perhaps never will. This is a profound and often lonely experience known as falling in love with potential. It is not simply a matter of making bad choices or ignoring red flags. It is something deeper, something that speaks to the very way your mind processes the world. It is the curse and the gift of the idealistic imagination. If you find yourself repeatedly waiting for a version of someone that does not yet exist, please know that this does not mean you are broken. It does not mean you are foolish. It often means you possess a powerful form of empathy that allows you to see the best in others, even when they cannot see it in themselves. But today, we want to gently explore how to retrieve your energy from a future that may never happen, and how to ground your heart safely in the present. To understand why we do this, we have to look at the mechanics of a sensitive, creative mind. You might be the kind of person who walks into a run-down house and doesn't see the peeling paint or the broken windows. You see the renovated living room, the light pouring in, the life that could be lived there. You are a visionary.
You have an architectural heart.
When you apply this to people, it becomes complicated. Because of your sensitivity, you pick up on subtle signals that others miss. You see a flicker of kindness in a generally cold person, and you magnify it. You hear a moment of vulnerability in someone who is emotionally unavailable, and you mistake that moment for the permanent reality. You are not inventing these traits out of thin air. You are taking tiny seeds of truth and watering them with your own hope until they look like a forest in your mind. This is often called projective loving. It is the act of loving the statue you believe is hidden inside the stone, rather than acknowledging the hard, cold reality of the rock you are actually embracing. We do this because the potential feels so real to us. To a vivid imagination, the future feels just as tangible as the present. You feel their capacity for love so strongly that it is baffling to you that they are not acting on it. On a philosophical level, this is a search for meaning. We want to believe that our love is powerful enough to be a catalyst. We think that if we just love them enough, if we are just patient enough, we can unlock that potential. It becomes a project. And for many of us, a project is safer than a partnership. A project gives us a sense of control. As long as we are focused on fixing or waiting for them to ripen, we don't have to face the terrifying vulnerability of being with someone who meets us halfway, right now, without needing to be changed. The difficulty arises when this gap between the potential and the reality starts to drain your life force. You might notice a pattern of exhaustion. It takes an immense amount of creative energy to constantly bridge the gap for someone else. You are essentially doing the emotional work for two people. You are feeling your own feelings, and you are also imagining the feelings they should be having. In your daily life, this manifests as a constant state of interpretation. You become a detective of crumbs. A simple text message becomes evidence of a massive internal shift. A week of decent behavior is seen as proof that the real them has finally arrived. You begin to live on an emotional roller coaster, where the highs are fueled by your imagination, and the lows are caused by the crushing weight of reality. We often tell ourselves that staying is an act of loyalty. We think, I see the good in them when no one else does. And while that is noble, there is a fine line between loyalty and self-abandonment. When you fall in love with potential, you are often falling in love with a reflection of your own desire to be seen, your own desire to be healed. You project your own depth onto a shallow surface, and then you wonder why you cannot dive in. There is a grief that comes with admitting this, To let go of the potential is to let go of the beautiful future you have built in your mind. It feels like a death. You are not just breaking up with who they are, you are breaking up with who they could have been. And that specific type of loss is rarely acknowledged by our culture. People might say, just move on, not realizing that you are mourning a ghost that felt more real to you than the people standing right in front of you. However, recognizing this pattern is the first step toward reclaiming your reality. The goal is not to become cynical or to stop seeing the best in people. The goal is to align your investment with the evidence. Let's look at this through a more grounded lens. Think of trust and investment like a bank account. In a healthy dynamic, you deposit energy as the other person deposits energy. But when you love potential, you are taking out massive loans against a future inheritance that has not been signed over to you. You are spending emotional currency that doesn't exist yet. So, how do we begin to shift this? How do we turn down the volume of the fantasy and turn up the volume of the present? It starts with a soft, non-judgmental observation of what is. We need to separate the subtitles we write in our heads from the movie that is actually playing. One way to gently practice this is through a specific form of journaling. It is not about analyzing their childhood or their trauma. It is a simple list of facts versus hopes. On one side of the page, write down what actually happened this week. Write down the actions, the concrete words, the silence, the delays. On the other side, write down what you hoped those things meant. For example, the fact might be, they canceled our plans last minute and didn't reschedule. The hope might be, they are overwhelmed because they are working so hard to build a future for us. When you see it written down, the gap becomes visible. You can honor your hope, but you must respect the fact. Another gentle inquiry you can offer yourself is the question of enough. If this person never changed from this day forward, if they never became more open, more ambitious, or more affectionate, would what you have today be enough for a lifetime? If the answer is no, then you are not in a relationship with a person, you are in a relationship with a gamble. These practices are not designed to make you callous. They are designed to bring you home to yourself. The energy you spend painting a beautiful overlay onto someone else's life is energy that is leaking out of your own. There is a common myth that leaving a situation like this means you failed to save them or that you gave up too easily. This is the voice of the martyr archetype. In reality, stepping back is often the most loving thing you can do. By removing the cushion of your potential thinking, you allow the other person to experience the natural consequences of their own level of maturity. You stop propping up a version of them that isn't real, which is the only way they might ever feel the need to grow on their own terms. As you begin to withdraw your projection, you might feel a sudden emptiness. This is natural. That space was filled with fantasy. Now it is open. It is quiet. And in that quiet, you have the chance to meet yourself. The immense capacity you have to love, to envision a beautiful future, to see the gold in the dirt, that is your superpower. But it is a power that requires a worthy vessel. You cannot pour the ocean into a cup that is already full of cracks. Consider this possibility. What if the potential you see so clearly in them is actually a reflection of you? What if the depth, the beauty, and the promise you are projecting outward are actually qualities that reside in your own spirit, waiting to be claimed? When you stop trying to build a home in a blueprint, you can start building a life on solid ground. You deserve to be met in the present tense. You deserve a love that doesn't require you to be an editor, a director, or an architect. You deserve to be seen for who you are, by someone who is already standing there, ready to meet you. So, as you move through your week, try to notice when you slip into the director's cut of your relationships. Gently pause, breathe, and ask yourself, am I interacting with the person in front of me or the character in my mind? And what would it feel like to save all that belief, all that hope, and direct it back toward your own unfolding life?